Hey dudes, SilviteSoltis here, and today I've got another Classic Plus discussion video for you. World of Warcraft Classic is all about nostalgia, taking us back to the vanilla days of Azeroth. It's a game with its own personality and charm, an intense grind to 60 followed by many interesting and enjoyable dungeons like Stratholme, Skull-Immense, and BRD. The formula is perfect, and really, there's not much to change. That said, if Blizzard is working on a Classic Plus, as we all expect at this point, they'll probably be releasing some new dungeons. The question is, how could they stay true to that classic experience while bringing fresh content? Well, today, I'd like to discuss what features and mechanics could make new dungeons successful in WoW Classic Plus, while keeping that old school vibe alive. Before getting into it though, make sure to subscribe, as I've got a lot more ideas about Classic Plus, and other games that I'm looking forward to sharing with you all. But yeah, without further ado, let's talk about what would make new dungeons for Classic Plus successful. First, let's talk about the spirit of WoW Classic. Back in the day, original dungeons were slow, methodical, and challenging, requiring teamwork, strategy, and careful planning in order to execute. To keep this intact for new dungeons in Classic Plus, Blizzard would need to focus on a few key things. Firstly, no dungeon finder or cross-realm groups. The social aspect is a huge part of Classic's charm, and while this has eroded in recent years, it must be brought back for Classic Plus. No automated matchmaking for dungeons. Players need to manually form groups and interact. No matter what new dungeons they come up with, they need to thrive on a community where your reputation matters. Secondly, thematic dungeon designs are a must. WoW Classic dungeons were all steeped in rich lore and were part of the leveling journey. For new dungeons to be successful, they must fit seamlessly into the existing world. Imagine delving deeper into the Emerald Dream, or uncovering forgotten Titan vaults. Dungeons that feel connected to the existing lore and world of Azeroth. Blizzard really can't afford to jump the shark with out-of-place dungeon experiences. They need to match the classic theme. Thirdly, they should include longer, multi-wing dungeons. Think back to Blackrock Depths or Dire Maul. These new dungeons should follow this model, multi-wing and expansive, not just one-and-done instances. Dungeons where you can get lost, maybe with secret areas, optional bosses, or side quests that encourage exploration. Now, this might not be the best for leveling dungeons, especially if there are new players coming to join for the classic experience. But any new endgame dungeons should absolutely be long and convoluted. It's just classic. WoW Classic's combat mechanics historically revolve around careful planning, crowd control, and threat management. New dungeons should stick to this formula, but toss in some interesting twists for good measure. Encounters should involve lots of crowd control elements. Back in vanilla, CC was king. New dungeons should continue to rely on well-coordinated crowd control, mages sheeping, rogues sapping, and hunters trapping, so on and so forth. They need to make it so that pulling recklessly means certain death. Yes, it will be slower, but that's how the game was meant to be played. Furthermore, they should consider implementing some more dynamic enemy behavior. Instead of static pull patterns, what if certain mobs patrolled dynamically or responded to combat differently? Imagine having to deal with mobs that actually try to flank you if your group isn't careful, or enemies that flee to get reinforcements, forcing the tank to get a tight grip on aggro. It would also be a good idea for Blizzard to change up some of the classic boss mechanics in these new dungeons. Boss fights in Classic were relatively simple, often about gear checks and basic positioning. But what if new Classic Plus bosses evolved these basic mechanics without going full retail? Think along the lines of environmental hazards like collapsing ceilings or lava flows that players need to avoid. Intermission phases where adds rush in and have to be handled quickly. Or some clever debuffs that force healers or DPS to rotate to and from different tasks without making it too modern or complicated. Even if each of these bosses only has one of these mechanics, just something that shakes it up a little bit while keeping the spirit of Classic alive. Next up, Itemization. Classic dungeons succeeded because loot felt rewarding. Every drop had the potential to make a difference to our character's power, and these new dungeons should keep this tradition alive. Classic Plus dungeons should offer gear that fits between the existing tier content. For example, gear that falls between Molten Core and Blackwing Lair, or between AQ and Nax. These would create a sense of progression, but also help those gearing up for raids without making current raid content completely obsolete. Furthermore, every classic dungeon had its unique pieces that people sought after. Remember the Dungeon Set 2 questline? Well, new dungeons should offer similarly thematic gear. Maybe sets that give bonuses when used in specific situations, or gear that offers rare resistances needed for certain encounters, like in AQ40 for example. Also, these new dungeons should be tied to epic questlines, much like the Lincoln Sword Chain or the Dungeon Set 2 upgrade quest. Completing these dungeons should reward more than just loot. There should be a sense of achievement, reputation gains, or unique profession recipes that matter to the players. Replayability was crucial for classic dungeons. You didn't just run them once for a single quest, there was always a reason to go back. New dungeons should have a similar focus on long-term value. Remember when you had to get the key for Skull-Immense, or do an attunement in Upper Blackrock Spire? Let's bring that back. Not only do attunements add to the story, but they also give players a goal beyond just beating the dungeon. Make the process challenging but rewarding, perhaps tying it into lore or even PvP objectives. Just like the long and epic questlines for Strat, Skolo, and UBRS, Classic Plus should bring in new questlines associated with these new dungeons that come into the mix. And just like how we had to run back and forth to LBRS to get the spider milk off, there should be a pressing need to leave a dungeon and come back to these new dungeons several times to complete these quests and questlines. If Blizzard includes all of these sorts of things, I think these new dungeons will be very successful. At the end of the day, new dungeons in WoW Classic Plus would need to strike the perfect balance between nostalgia and fresh content. By sticking to Classic's core principles, challenging content, slow-paced group coordination, and meaningful rewards, while adding just enough twists to keep things exciting, Blizzard could create some unforgettable experiences. That said, what do you all think? What would make new dungeons in Classic Plus work for you? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more classic content. But for now, and as always, take it easy, guys.